I want people to know that they are loved and that they're not going through the struggles alone.
This is Benjamin Joe interviewing David Lewis. My blog is buffalomusicplayers.wordpress.com. That's a mouthful. You can follow me on Instagram at buffalomusicplayers. And David Lewis is the accomplished and very versatile musician that I am interviewing today for my blog.
Thank you.
And he's invited me to his home, to Starpine Studio, and this is my first time actually conducting an interview on recording, other than for my own little recording devices that I use.
Yeah, I mean, it's my first time doing anything like this in the studio, so I appreciate you coming by and having a talk with me. Cool.
How long have you lived in West Seneca? I think that's where we are right now.
Yeah, I just moved here about 4 years ago now, but I've always lived in Buffalo. Buffalo area. I grew up kind of out in the country, actually, like
all right.
About 30 miles east of here.
Like Springville, that kind of place area, or?
Do you know where Strikersville is at all?
Literally do. I know where Strikersville is. I know I've driven through it.
That's right. That's
awesome.
where I grew up around, and then moved out here. Just a few years ago.
Wow. Did you have a long? About how old are you now?
32.
32. I'm wondering because you mentioned that you had 4 kids. So I was like, that's a lot of kids to go and be having if you're like 20 something, which is.
Oh, it's 3 kids right now.
Oh, 3 kids. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're open. I mean, we're open to a 4th, I guess, if it happened. But right now, we're kind of, we're worn out.
I understand. I have 1, and that seems to be a difficult. But okay. How old did you say again? 32.
Yeah, 32.
32. Lived in Buffalo area for your entire life. So first. Big question right out of the bank, right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. Like, what got you into music in the first place?
So, I always liked singing. Really enjoyed just singing along with the 80s music that my dad used to play around the house.
Cool.
Like Foreigner, Aha, stuff like that, So we just be in the living room singing that out. And then as I went through high school, there was this girl in our class who actually gave like a little quick class. Like we were all supposed to teach some subject for like 10 minutes, and she came in with her guitar and she taught like 4 basic chords, and like, I picked it up, I tried them, and I was like, yo, I'm in love with this. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So then from there, I just started writing very like acoustic indie sort of style songs. And I met my buddy Christian at UB, and he was a phenomenal guitar player, much better than I was. So, we decided to sit down and jam, and, he was really good with writing new riffs, really, really inspirational stuff that he was coming out with. So we decided to start a little band together, which was 7 Sails.
7 Sails. That was your first band.
Yeah, that was the first one.
You were in UB at that point in time, and so.
Yeah. But then, like, we graduated and started working on like a little EP. We went to a home studio in Buffalo. Actually, it was around Cheektowaga area, and he was, he's working out of his house. He's got his mother-in-law upstairs, just like in this one little room, But we did our first EP there, the Land of Lions. That's out on Spotify and iTunes. That was our first EP ever. And that was
lions like the animal, or like lions like the animal.
Yeah, cool. Land of Lions.
So what was it? Was he play drums? Did he both play guitar? Any rhythm section or?
So that was the interesting part. The producer that we were actually working with, he had a drum kit, and he was also a very talented guitar player. So we go there with our little acoustic song, and he's like, "Hey, I think you could add bass. I think you could add drums."
Nice.
So he helped us out because he was talented at all of them. So he was almost like our session player for that EP.
What was his name?
Elliot.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, but he moved out to California. I haven't heard from him in a while, but
hopefully he's doing well.
Yeah, exactly.
Not dying of heat, hopefully right now.
Right.
We sip vanilla Cokes and with ice in balmy weather of Western New York.
But
Well, that's cool. I mean, I guess what really kind of like hit me about you was that like here was a guy like he sends his tape about Don Leon. I'm like, okay, electronic music, that's pretty cool. Then I get back to him like, hey, you know, like I forget exactly what I said. I could probably look it up on my phone, but I'm not going to. He's like, well, I actually do other stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, like you're one of these musician guys who is like has so many projects going on at the same time that like it's just like should I promote this or should I promote that? And I was like, you know what, I want this is like the real Matthew Mathers kind of like thing with Eminem and some shit. Like who's the real David Lewis? Like who's the man behind the many faces? Name some of your projects. Like you started with Seven Sails, you did Don Leon.
Yeah, so those are the only two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, still.
Before I came to Seven Sails as a name, I did have quite a few iterations, but
Cool.
none of that is really out there. That was kind of like when I was trying to build a name a little bit. And it's funny because you can think of a million different names that are good, and then you go online and someone's already got it.
Oh yeah, right.
You know, and I was trying to be as original as I could be, where someone can easily search your name, and then it's also a name that means something to you too, like not just something random.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like I want to
that.
like my name too. So yeah, Seven Sails is the only one that's out there online. You know, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, and Dov Leon. Those are the only two that I'm working right now.
Cool. Is that Seven Sails with like a sail, like a boat? Or?
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, that's awesome. You still work with Christian, your buddy in Seven Sails?
Here and there. He lives in Florida now, so
Wow.
once in a while, you know, he'll send me a guitar riff that he wrote, and I'll just be like, okay, like try to just get a good loop of it or get a good recording of the chord progression and maybe email it to me, and then we'll work on it together, you know, just through conversations remotely.
That's so cool.
So there are a couple songs that we've done like that where it was just remote work and we were just kind of doing our thing. And
Do you ever go down to Florida and like play a show with them or anything like that? Like what's your gigging life like? I can tell you got the studio and the production like having, but what do you do for live like shows?
the gig life isn't really there.
The gig life isn't there
because,
yet.
well,
That's no shame in that. Big Star,
Yeah.
like, you know, I mean, a million great artists were just like studio artists until they just made it, and then they were playing stadiums right after that. I mean, look at who's a good version of no, not Three Doors Down, the other one. They had that band that thing about crystal methamphetamines. It was like semi-charmed kind of life. Do you remember the band I'm talking about?
That sounds familiar.
I keep forgetting what they're called. I don't really. They're okay. I listened to something about them and I was like, oh, you're a studio musician. They had the logo before they had the song of their band. So I was just like, all right. And,
Yeah.
But, you know, Buffalo is such a gig-oriented city. Like, it's a musical city, like, with all the venues around and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you say you fit into, like, the musical scene? Like, what kind of shows do you go to? Like, where would you, like, pass out some tapes or something where you think that people would become interested?
Yeah, so, well, like, there was some getting out there, at least, before I had the third child. Been kind of a homebody since that one, but you know, he just turned one, so I think eventually we'll have a little more flexibility to go out. But I was playing open mics around town.
Oh yeah,
here and there, you know, just trying to show some songs that we wrote together, but never like an official gig. And I think, you know, since I did that, because that was a few years ago. You know, I've written a lot more since then and gotten more comfortable in the styles. So, I mean, I would love to play a show. It's not that I don't want to. It's like just the lack of like time and availability
like
with the
sleep
3 kids.
and like yeah,
the sleep. You know, you need energy to go play a show.
Yeah.
But I'd say like the scene that I usually went to in Buffalo. Was like Minus the Bear, you know, they came around, Bad Sons. And it's sort of reflected in the styles that I've been, I guess, embracing is like the indie style. Like I love those bands. And so like whenever they came around, I would try to go see them. But then I also loved post-hardcore music.
Oh, yeah?
You know, like We Came as Romans or Silverstein. And I love both styles so much that I was starting to fuse them almost in some of my songs. And that's when I realized, you know what, maybe I should stick Seven Sails to like the indie acoustic stuff, because that's what people originally came on for. You know, like my first fans were there because they liked that style, but I was sort of like going too far the other way. And that's when I made the split with Seven Sails and Dov Leon.
Cool.
Dov Leon, I kind of now like that side, you know, you listen to those songs, there's a screamer from Through Dreams and Distance,
Right.
Rob Davies. He's from the UK. Their band is phenomenal. Like if you haven't checked them out, I would definitely recommend giving them a listen.
Cool.
Spotify, iTunes, all that. But yeah, I mean, it's almost like it was a bucket list for me. I wanted to have a real gritty song that was powerful, that had like those gritty vocals. And I'm not really capable of doing those screams. I've tried. You know, I read all the tutorials, watched the videos, but it was like really hurting my voice. And I wasn't sure if it was worth sacrificing like your clean vocals to go for the scream vocals. So I was like, you know what, if someone's already good at it, I'll reach out to them and see if they want to get in on the project with me. So.
That's cool. So what kind of like production stuff do you do down here? Like you've got the drums and bass. I think you use a general loop for that, like that kind of thing, or? Yeah.
So there's a couple plugins that I use. Easy Drummer. That's a great plugin that I use to write the drums. They go to a studio with actual drum kits and record samples of each of those pieces.
Right.
Of the drum kit. You know, so then with your keyboard, you can sit there and write a drum beat using the drum samples. So that's mostly how I write my drums. I do have a friend, Josh, who he loves to play drums and he sounds great. So I actually had him here one time with his kit. But since it's kind of a small studio, I couldn't really get like the best recording of it. So I had him write the drums and then I just transcribed it in Easy Drummer.
Cool.
Because that's professionally recorded there, you know, each one, you know, microphones that are thousands of dollars, which,
yeah, exactly.
You know, that's kind of outside of my budget, but
well, you got a good place here. I mean, you got the basic stuff, you got the you know, the tracks, they're running. I see speakers, I see I guess you can't. Oh yeah, they can see us. Yeah, this microphone setup, it's really nice actually. I feel like I'm on a professional podcast or something like that. It's kind of cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's a passion project. Like I still have a day job.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I do for fun. But you know, when I guess that's kind of my personality, is like if I get into something, I'm like all in on it for a while, you know.
Yeah.
So this is probably the one thing that's been very consistent in my life, is writing music, because of like the joy that it can bring through the process.
Cool. I'm making random notes in my pad right here.
Yeah.
And just saying, like, this is the part of the recording where it talks about where you want to go and have a quote in the article, because it sounds really good when somebody's saying, like, I make music for the passion rather than for the money, which a lot of people would say, like, yeah, I'm going for the money these days. I don't see that. I see that with you. I'm just like, yeah, indie rock and electronic, and continuing just the craft of vibrations, you know, like creating that vibe. Tell me a little bit more about Seven Sails, because I did not listen to that, so I feel a little bit at a loss. I don't know what.
Okay.
Describe it to me. Give me a word picture so that my earworms will like pick up and like make sure I get to it.
Yeah. So Seven Sails, it's very acoustic, sort of ethereal. Like it's saturated in reverb.
Oh, okay.
You know, tastefully, I think, though. Maybe some songs from before were like a little heavy on the reverb, but that's part of the journey, though. You know, every artist has where they started, and you know, some people might want to pull that down and be like, oh, I don't want people to hear that, you know. But for me, I look at that as like it's part of the journey, you know. And there were people who were jamming it, you know, people that might want to go back to that old school stuff that you had out. But yeah, so Seven Sails, like it was very like violins, piano.
Wow.
You know, acoustic guitar. Some of the songs are like purposefully recorded like a little more raw, just to give you that like ambient sort of feel. Because I love when indie artists do that, where it feels like you're just sitting in the room with them while they're jamming. And yeah, like, so I try to replicate that in a couple songs, just to try it out, because I love it and I wanted to see if I could pull it off. But my biggest, I guess for reference, my biggest influences in that would be like City and Color.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Novo Amor. I think he just owns that indie scene. If you're looking for like, driving through the mountains in Vermont or something, like you'd be listening to that, or like with the pines on either side of you. And it was funny, Novo Amor, he was working on that album in upstate New York, apparently. And
wow.
I found him before my wife and I went for a road trip through the exact same area. So we were listening to that music while we're driving through that area that he wrote it in, and it just fit it so well.
Yeah.
Like, it sounded like the music was tied with the scenery, and it was like beautiful. It was like an experience on its own, just listening to that music while driving through those winding mountain roads through the forest.
Do you consider your own music to be kind of like encapsulating a certain place as well? Like, I mean, Dov Leon, I felt like it was like, I could totally see this being played at, like, say, the grain silos or something like that.
Oh, that would be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be.
One of the features of Buffalo. It's just like, we don't have much. We're Rust Belt. Like, oh, well, we got these old abandoned grain silos. Like, maybe you'd like to party there.
Yeah, yeah. Come on down. Well, and they have concerts around there.
Yeah,
too,
they do.
Right?
They have a bar like
Riverworks.
right next to it. Yeah. The Riverworks across the river, and yeah.
Yeah, I went to a couple shows there. I think I saw Manchester Orchestra there.
No kidding. Really?
Yeah, that's where I got that poster from.
Huh. Wow. Well, I'm trying to go and find it now. Hold on. Let's see. Boston, Portland, Maine, Louisville. I'll see it at some point. Yeah, I do enjoy Manchester Orchestra. It's always a good tune time listening to them. Buffalo, New York. Buffalo Riverworks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal. Well, I mean, their new album, The Million Masks of God, I think they have
I haven't heard it yet.
I think they have one even after that now, or at least some singles. But that album was phenomenal. Like, I love their old stuff. They're talking about like his father like mining. I think that's what he was talking about in the one, or his grandfather maybe. It was like stories about working in the mines. Yeah, they know how to transport you somewhere with their music.
Yeah. I'm not much of a lyric person. Like, I don't actually hear the lyrics most of the time. I'm always just kind of solely on vibes. And then,
interesting. Okay.
I just, growing up in the 90s, like, you got Nirvana, like, Soundgarden. Like, you can't hear what these people are saying. Like, you got, like, a couple words, and you might have been, like, I just, I don't care about the words that much. I enjoy them. Like, if I like a song, like, I'll go back and I'll find out what the lyrics are, or I'll just listen to it a bunch of times and continue with the lyrics I think I hear.
That's kind of the beauty of it too. Like,
that's the beauty
that
of
really
song.
makes you fall in love with a song when you find those little nuggets that you didn't hear before.
Exactly.
And it's like your 10th time listening, and you're like, oh, that's what he said. And like,
or like they do like a different remix, and you're like, oh, all right, yeah, that's cool too. Like,
Yeah. I love when artists doing like a nice rendition or like an acoustic version of maybe like a more high tempo sort of like rock song.
I mean, to be totally honest, that's what I got into when I was a kid. It was not so much the actual like, heavy metal kind of like thing. It was like, oh no, and they turned it down, like Nirvana Unplugged, right? Like on MTV or whatever that was. Like, classic thing, like band that's screaming a lot, which I enjoyed, but then just really loved just hearing somebody play dumb, and like, like those old classics, like just acoustically, like, which I think is what actually got him a fame, was that whole, we have really loud like rocking songs, and we also have very like soft, like acoustic songs with like hooks and melodies and stuff like that, rather than driven by screaming and like drum beats. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, that is why that's part of my fascination with you, because you do both. Like, and like you completely like split it up into two totally different projects, which I think is like almost too much. I mean, 3 kids, 2 projects, 1 wife, like a house in Senegal. Like that seems like I gotta mow the lawn, but I also have to, I'm not making 1 track here. I have to go make 2 tracks every single day or something like that. You know? Like I'm not making 1 album. I'm making 2 albums. Like I don't have 1 persona. I have 2 personas, and like that's the.
Yeah, I mean, well, I feel like I do go into I go into phases where I'm like really feeling that one style, and I'll just focus on that for a while. And I guess to balance it, you know, there were days where I was waking up at 5 a.m.
Oh yeah,
just to come down here, and like no one's up yet, everyone's sleeping. It's kind of the only time in my day where everyone's sleeping, and I have the house to myself. So I would come down here and just work for a couple hours before the first kid got up.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's dedication.
Well, like I said, it's a passion. Like this is my, you know, going golfing on the course. This is,
yeah,
you know,
I can't play golf. Like, don't even try to make me play golf. Like, it's too hard.
Yeah, I mean, and it takes a lot of dedication. Like those guys who are worth their salt out there, you know, they're doing it all the time, like every weekend, and they won't miss their tea time for church, you know?
Yeah. So, what are you writing about? Like, is this the same thing for both, just different genres, or like, is it like really like different topics that you go into, like as you know, Seven Sails or as Don Leon?
So, I guess universally the main theme between the 2 projects is I want to try to, I guess, provide some hope to the listener. You know, like everyone's got their own struggles. And like some people talk about their struggles more than others, so then it may seem like, you know, oh, this person's suffering more than I am or something. But I think everybody has like those demons that they're fighting, and especially Dov Leon, I think, is where I really dive into it. It's like talking about the particular struggles that I might have, and also providing like a resolution, like not just being sad about it, not just being you know, like in your misery loves its company, because there are some bands out there that write just very melancholic sort of songs, and there's no real uplift at the end. You know,
like,
it's like
it's a song to feel sad with, you know? Like,
right? Yeah, and that's good sometimes. I mean,
yeah. No, like, all respect to
right.
I mean, who's a good example of that? I can't even really think of any right now, but like, there's definitely songs where you're just like, this guy is feeling the same way I'm feeling right now, and like, I'm just one in the moment feeling. But you say like the resolution, like I noticed that. What was that card that your dad gave you or something like that? Like that's a pretty like heavy song, like for Dov Leon. Like I thought it was just, I was like,
which
I think it was like
where he sold off half the garage,
something along those lines. I was just like, wow, like this is really heavy, because I've had a pretty charmed life, I suppose. Like nothing terribly bad has happened to me. I've seen friends come and go. I've seen, you know, things happen. I mean, I grew up in the 90s. Like I was like 19 when 9/11 happened, right? So like, my whole historical world is plenty of like landscapes, but nothing in particular to me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When I heard that song, I was like, oh yeah, people got real struggles, and like this is you know, but I don't feel like it's hard for me to go and like empathize with it, because I'm like, I you know, what have I done? But at the same time, it helps me see like what other people have been through. Because like you said, some people don't talk about those things very much. A lot of people don't talk about it.
Right. Yeah, a lot of them hold it in, or they're actively resolving it, you know, either if it's therapy, you know, no one should feel ashamed to go get some therapy if it's something that will help. Like just talking to a family member compared to talking to a professional, you know. Yeah. I think you're a lot more inclined to really let it all out with a professional that you don't really know. You know, like you're like, this person is here to listen to me, and like I'm gonna just spill my guts now, instead of with a parent you might get immediate feedback and you're like, no, just let me vent, you know, like just let me talk. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, I know how that feels. My wife tells me about that all the time. It's just like, don't try to solve the problem, just like listen to the problem and say it's okay.
Well, that's just good husband advice, you know?
Yeah, it's just I only got married like a month ago, so like I've still got a learning curve.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Went to Hawaii that's why I couldn't get to you for a little while, because we were on Hawaii.
Oh, like, okay, it was a honeymoon.
Yeah,
beautiful. That's awesome.
Finally came around. So, I mean, where do you learn the chops with all this equipment and everything, like production value? I mean, I can play acoustic guitar badly with like 4 chords.
Okay.
Like, and I can jam with somebody if they, notice my inclination to playing G, C, and D over and over again.
Yeah.
But the whole thing that I started with Dov Leon was just so much more complex to me. Like, just like, how did you get into that whole like production value? I mean, you started off with getting it like professionally done by somebody. Now you got your own studio.
Right. And I guess it was just like learning along the way and collaborating with more people.
Yeah.
Because before I was kind of like doing things a little solo. And I knew that there was more potential within like a certain track. I'm working on a song. I got it to where I can get it, but I feel like someone else could add a lot of value to it. And that's when I started reaching out to more people. Like my uncle, his name's Jim Papafagus. He's an excellent guitar player.
Cool.
And he's got stuff online under Jimmy P. That's another one to go check out. But for Dov Leon, I wanted that gritty feel to it. And I'm not, like, I feel like I'm better on the acoustic than I am on the electric.
Yeah.
And he's phenomenal on the electric. So I asked him, do you want to collaborate on this one? Here's the track where I've got it. If you can think of some chunky guitar to put in there and really spice it up, like get a,
that's
little
really
more
cool.
High,
That's
high octane
songwriting talent. That's like, that's where you just like, you have a song and you just like say, we'll put this piece in here, we'll put this piece in here. And then you got a whole little box or a globe sphere of a song you just give to somebody. Like that's,
yeah.
Like what is your relationship, you think, with your audience?
So my audience is pretty small.
Yeah. My audience is pretty small too. Like you will not gain very many people to your audience from my audience.
Well, I mean, the music scene is so saturated with so many artists, so it's hard to find people sometimes, like on release radars or whatever, because there's so many people to choose from with those algorithms. But I'd say like my audience is why I write the music now. Before, I think when you start writing music, there's multiple drivers for it. There's the passion. There's wanting to try to inspire people. And then like there is like that little piece of, can I get this up to like 100,000 streams or 1 million streams? Like that's always just like that little, I don't know. It's almost like a temptation towards fame instead of focusing on the real beauty of what you're doing. Like it's almost like selling out if you're just concerned with the stream counts or how many people are listening. That shouldn't matter. And City and Color, he has one lyric that he says, if I could write just one song, it would save somebody's life. Then I would sing all that I can sing. Yeah. And I absolutely love that. And I feel like that should be motivation enough to know that I have a small following, but they're consistent. Like they've been with me along the way. And with Spotify for Artists, you can see how many listeners per day. You can see how many streams. You can see playlists that people have you in, which can be fun. Like sometimes,
yeah, that does sound fun.
As long as they're public, I think. I don't know if private ones would show up there, but you can get all that demographic information. So I know that people who have been listening are from around the same area. So, and a few of them I know personally, like friends that will come and just tell me, like, hey, I was jamming that. Like, I love that one. I keep coming back to it. And for me, I'm like, that's awesome. That should be enough for me to know that at least one person is really able to maybe commiserate with me or vent with me or like, just jam.
Wow.
With my music, like knowing that there are people that are doing that is like, it means the world to me.
Inspiring people.
And that's where I was talking about the resolution in some of the Dov Leon songs, is that I want people to know that they are loved and that they're not going through the struggles alone. I want them to know that like there is a God that loves them, and I talk about my own personal experiences in those songs. so that there's almost, it's like an example, something that, it's my testimony, and if they relate to it, that's awesome. Always having the respect there too.
Yeah, exactly.
Is a huge piece of it. And, like there are, I guess my music might, at least Dov Leon might fall into like more of a conservative camp. But I do always, I always try to do it with respect, where I'm not bashing somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Or dragging someone through the mud. I just want to share my viewpoint and almost provide context of why it's my viewpoint through the lyrics. Try to say like, this is what I believe and this is why, and this is where how it's helped me, or how it could help you, I guess.
Yeah.
I think a lot of musicians try to go the same route though, where a lot of musicians do want to try to use their music to help others
that
through
makes
tough
sense.
times. And I think it's because I think I wanted to pursue more of that route than just singing random secular lyrics, because I was inspired when I was going through tough times by bands like
Exactly.
We Came as Romans, Memphis Mayfire.
I hadn't heard of them. These guys.
Oh.
Like, I'm like totally like I'm catching the names and I'm writing them down, because I'm like later on I'll look at this and I'll know what Dave was trying to go and explain to go on me.
Yeah, they're very, very post-hardcore, screaming, but they had always like a really nice balance with the clean vocals too, like a back and forth. And that's kind of what I did in Dov Leon in a couple songs, because I love that dynamic when there's like back and forth between two vocalists. I love when bands do that. So I wanted to try it out.
Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, you rapped on some of the songs too. I thought you would be like this big rapper. Then you said that you did like guitar music, and I was like, oh, and that's what really like got me. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like Wyclef Jean, like he does like his rapping thing, and then he does his like solo acoustic thing at the same time.
I guess when I was making my album, my first like full length album for Seven Sails, it's Personal Prisons. That's the name of that album. There was a couple songs where I was branching into that hip hop sphere, at least stylistically.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't
maybe
sound bad.
Not culturally, but like stylistically, like I enjoy writing it. It's a lot of fun. It's very challenging though. Like I definitely have a newfound respect for anyone who writes their own bars, because it's a lot of lyrics you got to write. You're going fast and you got pages of lyrics that you're just burning through in like 30 seconds.
Down, like read them, or did you like memorize them like in your head so you could just like
a combo?
Like a combo?
Yeah, I think when I do like the first couple takes, I have to read it. I got my phone up near the microphone, like I'm going through, but you do so many takes that you do start to memorize the lines. And I do feel like for singers trying to track vocals, if there's any out there, memorizing the lyrics allows you to focus more on what's coming out of your mouth. And I feel like it always sounds better when you have the lyrics memorized, and then you can feel them a little more. You can try to portray what they're saying a little better, stylistically, because when you're reading off a phone, it is kind of tough because you're multitasking, like you're trying to read and sing at the same time, and you can tell in the recording, it doesn't seem too focused there, like that line should have been a little harder, it's a little weak because you're just reading the line. So that's one advice I would say for any vocalist out there is like, try to memorize those lyrics before you go to the studio.
Oh yeah, because that studio time is not cheap. That's
right. It's not cheap.
Sure.
That's why I did my own in my home, because I couldn't afford the big name studios even around Buffalo. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, I'd love to go and like have a session time, but like I'd want multiple days, figure it all out, and but that would cost me like an arm and a leg, and I'd probably yeah. Tell me a little bit more like the hardships you've had, because like obviously like from the stuff I listened of your music, like a lot has gone on in your life. Like I said, my life pretty semi-charmed. Nothing really terrible happened, but I'm just wondering. I mean, you mentioned some hardships. Like, what was it like? I mean,
so I mean, my life was actually very good. In terms of the quality of life that's out there in the world today. I feel like I wouldn't change it for the world. It was challenging, but it was a very good life. I had loving parents. It was a big family though. I grew up with 4 sisters.
Oh, wow.
And
That's a lot of sisters. I got 2 right now. So
yeah. Yeah, for my brother was a miscarriage. I think he saw the scenario and said, "See ya." You know, he was like, "Good luck, Dave. It's up to you, buddy."
That got dark pretty quick.
But yeah, my dad started his own business.
Oh, cool.
Lewis Industrial Controls, and there were some years where the business just wasn't there. You know, we had the recession around 2008. Yeah, and that hit us pretty hard as a family. You know, I was still in high school, and then my 2 younger sisters were just coming up through grade school.
Ooh. Did you guys go to like public schools or like private schools or anything like that? Or
I went to Catholic school in Attica, all the way up to 8th grade, and then I went over to the Attica High School for public school.
Yeah, I did basically the same thing.
Okay, yeah. My younger sisters, they that Catholic school closed, so they just went right to the public schools all the way through.
Oh.
But my older sisters, they did the Catholic school route like me, you know, up to 8th grade and then over to the high school. But you know, those years, I didn't find this out until later in life, but because like my parents were such good parents that they kind of sheltered us from the reality of the situation. There was a day where my dad was starting a new job, and he only had enough to like get gas in the tank for the way there, starting a new job that week. And so he told me that he had to like go down to this town-wide garage sale in Strikersville. They have it every year. He went down there with a whole bunch of tools from his garage.
Oh, he had to go and sell some of his tools?
Yeah, sell some tools just
to get gas?
Just to get by, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I never knew that.
Did your mother work at all, or like would she?
She was a stay-at-home mom for most of my life, but then she did eventually go over and work at the high school.
Oh, okay.
As like a teacher assistant. So she was working, he was working full time, you know, like over full time, I would say probably, you know, probably a couple 80-hour weeks.
Like,
there.
Yeah, it's like 50 to 80 hours a week, you know. Like,
right. And then you got 5 mouths to feed too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, they were never left out in the lurch, you know, they were always provided for. And I guess that's why I have such strong faith, because I saw that they were faithful people. They trusted in God, and they were prayerful people, you know, like they wanted to have that close relationship, and they were always provided for no matter what the situation was. And I have been too, you know, every time that I've had a rough patch, or maybe I was scared about the next coming months because of something, it's always turned out in a way that I couldn't have even expected, you know, like in a better than what I would have planned for the outcome.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's kind of cool.
And to give you like a quick example of how I feel like I've been provided for is, my wife and I got married, and we were living in an apartment, and we had our first kid, Xavier, and you know, rent was like $900 a month. I think back then, and I feel bad for people today paying rent.
It went up again this year, so I was like, oh, that sucks.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So we found out that we were pregnant with our second, and I'm sitting there like, I don't have enough money. Yeah. Like, I don't have enough money for rent, for driving to work, and like for 2 kids now. Well, her grandmother, got hit in a parking lot. Somebody backed into her while she was walking.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, all right. So your wife's grandmother.
It'll come back.
Okay, all right. I'm just.
I'm sorry. Throw you a curveball there. But she got ran into in a parking lot. Broke her hip. Had to get surgery, and she moved in with her uncle, my wife's uncle, because he had a guest house.
Cool.
She asked us, "Hey, I'm no longer living at my house. Would you like to live in my house and just take care of it?" This house.
Wow.
Yeah.
No more rent.
No more rent. And we had that second baby just around the corner at that time.
Incredible. Wow. I mean, I hate to go hear that your grandma got hit by like
right.
a car in a parking lot.
Yeah. Wasn't the best scenario, but I mean, I could have never guessed that was going to happen.
So
I could have never in 1,000 years.
rent free.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So we kept it up, and it turned out that my daughter, the second one that was coming, she had to be in the NICU for
no.
like a week. Yeah, a couple. It was meconium. She breathed it in. It's like basically baby poop in the womb.
Oh, okay.
So she had to be in the NICU for a while, and I mean those bills were,
well, and
those
also
add
just
up.
terrifying to go into your kid and be in there. Like,
right, but monetarily, we would have been up a creek if we had to. I mean, you could set up payment plans.
Take out like a loan for to go and like keep your kid alive. Like,
right.
I mean, that's
Yeah, and then
what's her name?
Adeline.
Adeline.
Yeah.
Adili.
Adelin.
Cool.
E. Yeah.
So she's the one that I don't know. I mean, she was born into
Yeah, she was born when we were at this home. Like we just made that move. I think it was the following. It might have been the following year. Now I'm getting my dates mixed up, but I know that we were expecting, and like we were a little scared of the future and didn't know if we'd be able to swing the rent anymore. And then we had a third kid here. So once again, I'm like, we would be dead without grandma's house. And we're actually purchasing it now from her uncle. Her grandma passed away last year.
Oh.
So it was in the will for her uncle to get, and she wanted to sell it to us. So we,
Wow.
we're actually right now in the middle of buying the house.
That's like the American dream to like be able to go and like buy a house, but it doesn't seem to happen for a lot of people. Like it's just
especially
not there.
today.
Yeah.
I mean, the housing market is crazy right now.
We were trying to buy a house a couple of years ago, I guess. We were living in Lockport, and we were living in this basement, and my parents were just like, you guys really should start looking for a house. Like, why don't we try to help you out with it,
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. So we find a house, we put a bid on it, literally went up like double the price within like a day. And I was like, we were just like, oh my
Really?
God, like literally double. And we were like, okay. So we kept looking around, like, this is too expensive. I see a puddle in the backyard. I'm not going into this drainage like mess that's happening. The prices were just going astronomically. Like we'd put a bid in for a house, and we'd always say, well, we want to go and have somebody look it over, make sure that like we're not like buying something. And then somebody would be like, we got this much cash that we're putting towards the house, right?
And it's an unfathomable amount of cash too.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, how did they have $80,000 cash to put down on this?
Now we were pretty like lightweight about it at that point in time. We were just like, oh yeah, house is nice, like apartment is nice, but then my apartment gets flooded by this
Really?
like 500-year storm, basically.
Oh no!
So we're living at my wife's. At the time, she was. I hadn't even proposed marriage to her at that point. By the time, she was just my girlfriend, I guess. And we were living on her mom's boyfriend's couch. Like my son was like, Sage was living in the basement. There was a whole situation going on with CPS with his mom and everything like that. And I was like, okay. They're calling me like, we just need to go and interview him for a minute. I'm like, okay, I'll just be frank with you. Like, I lost my apartment in a flood. So like Sage is living on a beanbag bed kind of thing that's in the basement. They're like, oh, that's fine. I'm like, well, this could be like some sort of like weird CPS trick or something like that. But like, yeah, here's the address. Come on over. I won't be home. You can talk to her. And my mother-in-law now was just like, yeah. I served them lemonade, and they were really nice, and then they left, and I never heard anything about it. They were just like, all done. I was like, cool.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, so what was I getting to? Yeah, I mean, it's just like life is really hard for a lot of people, and music does help. I mean, I know it helps me.
Yeah,
like,
it definitely does. I mean, there's any show I would go to. I guess this is back when Warped Tour was going on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I would religiously go to those shows every summer at Darien Lake because that was the closest Warped Tour for us. But they would always have the meet and greets. And I remember at that time, We Came as Romans was like really my crutch for a while. And I saw them live, and I went over to the Screamer because I knew that he was the one that was writing the lyrics.
Okay.
And I like gave him a hug, and I was like, dude, thank you so much for your messaging. Like, it's helped me a lot. And, he was really cool, and I was like, if I could ever do that for somebody else, then, I'm set. I could stop writing.
Exactly. I mean, you don't do this for money or anything. Like, obviously, you just.
Oh no, you don't make any money doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't make any unless I think the only way for musicians to really make any money is doing the shows, because no one buys albums anymore.
Oh yeah, no albums. Yeah.
Might get some
Everything is
money through the
streaming.
merch, but probably not enough to live off of, I would think. So I think the shows and maybe views. So the stream counts.
Yeah, well, how does
is
that
interesting.
actually work with like?
Yeah. So Spotify will give you 0.3 cents for every stream.
That's pretty good. Oh, 0.3 cents. No,
0.3,
bad.
yeah.
I thought 3 cents per dollar. But
Yeah, so 3 streams, you're not even at a penny yet.
yeah.
But iTunes will give the artist 1 cent per stream.
That's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah. So
yeah, 1,000. That's like what, $10 or whatever.
yeah, I would
pizza.
I would suggest if you want to try to support your favorite artists, listen to them on
iTunes
if you
I've
can.
been doing Spotify for now. So yeah, now I know it's iTunes.
Well,
Yeah.
Spotify's platform is so cool. Like it
it's
really
great.
is user friendly. Like I do love Spotify.
I mean, to be clear, I don't listen to Spotify at my house. I'll go to Bandcamp or something like that. But in my car,
Okay.
I'm just like, I just hold down this thing. Play 7 Sails. I don't know. Maybe it'll do it. Yep, so far phone. But yeah, it's pretty cool because I don't have to go and look down. I can just kind of just say, oh yeah, this is what I want to hear.
Dictate the commands.
Dictate the commands and everything.
Right.
And yeah. She's gluten free. So
Okay.
there's this place in Lockport called Kid the Kin. They just make these amazing cookies that I love eating. And Sage has been like eating tiramisu. So like whenever I go to a restaurant, I'm like, do you have tiramisu? And they're like, no. Like obviously like who has tiramisu just like lying around? But every so often they'll just be like, oh yeah, we have tiramisu, we have chocolate cake, we have this, we have that. And I'm like, give me some of that tiramisu and bring it home to my kid. They're all
Loves
like,
it.
oh, yeah, they love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm basically dad of food, basically.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. You bring home the good stuff.
I bring
for
home
'em.
the good stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Which probably somehow solidified our relationships has lasted about 19 years now. So it's like
Hey, that's awesome.
pizza and donuts.
Yeah.
We go to guitar class. I go to Paula's Donuts, get a dozen donuts. Everybody who's at the guitar place has a donut.
Oh, Paula's is phenomenal.
Oh man, they used to live They used to be right by my house, like in
Really?
University Heights, and yeah, they were great. Like I would walk home at like 5 a.m. from the bars. I did a lot of street musician stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd pass Paula's on Kenmore Avenue,
Okay.
and they'd be open at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Like bars close at 4. I help clean up the bar, and then I go and walk over to Paula's, get a donut, get a coffee. It was great. Like I got a
Nice.
Texas donut for my birthday one time. I was just like, "This is my birthday. I'm gonna have Texas donut." Like,
Did you have to like sleep through the day then, or?
yeah, to a certain extent. Like I would get up around now.
Okay.
you know,
1 o'clock
so-
about.
Yeah, I mean, it was not a good thing for a guy with a family to be doing. Like, but I was single, and Sage only came over, like on the weekends.
Okay.
And it was pretty easy for me to just I don't know anybody who'd rather have a job. I mean, like I said, semi-charmed life. Like I would just play guitar for 5 hours on Elmwood Avenue or something like that, make $50 and just call it a day.
Okay.
Get on the bus, go home.
Did you play originals or covers?
Not
or?
so much originals. No, covers, Bob Dylan, Beatles, stuff like that.
Okay. I mean,
Badly.
do you have anything out online? or?
No, I don't have anything. Like,
Okay.
I was just a street musician who could play guitar and harmonica badly at the same time. Made a lot of noise that people felt sorry for, and we just, But no, I mean it was great because I would be doing that, and other people would be like, "Well, will you cut my lawn?" Yeah, I'll give you $50, cut my lawn. And I would be like, yeah, sure. And I ended up, all the bars I was in front of, they were just like, well, can you come back tomorrow and like, mop up the place and like clean it? Like, I'll give you $100. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that,
Okay.
So it was just kind of like, it was a weird, I don't know what I even call it. It was just like a weird mishap of like odd jobs. And that's why I told Family Court, like I have odd jobs, and if I
Okay.
wanted, and if I was short, like if I knew like things weren't going to work out or, I would just go to labor ready, temporary working service, work for a day, make $50, and just like, I pay my rent with that. And I told people, as long as I get money out here, like playing guitar, like I will play guitar all the time, and if I feel like I'm not making enough money, I'll just go work at a garbage truck for a day, and or the recycling plant.
Well, I respect that. I mean, you're out there working.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't lazy
around,
or anything like that. I'm a workaholic. I mean, like I work. Like it's
But it's got to be like sort of more of an adventurous lifestyle than
the
9 to 5. Cause
but like with the kid, the child support, and having to be there like awake Saturday morning, like we're watching SpongeBob, and I cannot take a nap at like noon. Like I could at first, like when he was 2 or 3, I was like, just. Oh my God, it's nap time. Who would have thought? You can't tell time.
Yeah.
So like, it's like, okay, I'll go to bed. He, very docile kid. Like, he was just like amiable about everything. And, but like, I'd be coming home, like, so I didn't drink. That was a good thing. But, I would just like be so tired I'd fall asleep on the couch with my boots on and things like that. So eventually I just said, nah. I got a job. I found a job on Craigslist, actually.
Okay.
Doing, carpet cleaning and cleaning out apartments for people moving out, like for landlords and things like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Started doing that, and then I was like, this sucks. Like manual work, screw this. Like I'm not gonna do this
It
anymore.
wears on your body.
Yeah, and I was about 30 at that point in time. Everyone's like, you better do something before you're 40 because like that's when the real like pain starts. And I'm like, okay.
Getting old.
Yeah, and when I got my degree, so.
Oh, what'd you get it in?
Journalism.
Okay.
So basically what we're doing now, like I do this every day for a newspaper.
That's
like
awesome.
Not always about music. Very, very, very rarely do I get to go and do music in my day job. But like, I mean, for a guy who knows how to go and play guitar all day and then clean out a bar and then like, like do some roofing or something like that, it's like, this is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And a lot more fun.
Well, maybe all those experiences will help you be exceptional at this job in particular, like it definitely gives you, because you have to be
you gotta be
to be a journalist. You have to
you gotta know where they're coming from. You can't just be like this guy who went to Harvard or something like that and like I mean, not really, not when you're talking to people whose like houses have just been destroyed by like a flood or something like that. You gotta be like, like I know how that feels, like I've been there,
right. And you've worked multiple odd jobs, so you kind of can you have that insider knowledge of, some people's experience with those jobs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I talk to the, the DPWs of the world. Like, it's just like, oh, you're doing this. Like, oh, how did that work out? Like, and it's just like, oh, did some construction on this thing. Like, oh, that's an old foundation you got there. I was doing that, like, a couple of years ago. And just like, oh, yeah, about, you're not going to step on a nail on the work site. You know what I mean? So, like.
Yeah. Well, there's been times where I've thought it would be fun to like have more variety in my work, because like I said, the music is all sort of a passion project on the side. But I went to school for biomedical engineering.
Damn.
That was a UB. It was a good program. It was a new program though. They didn't.
Biomedicine, like that's like.
Yeah, biomedical. So it's almost. It was an engineering field that was focusing on the interface between humans and mechanical things, so like infusion pumps, implants, orthopedics, stuff like that.
Wow.
There wasn't really a lot of work out in Buffalo, though.
No, I imagine not.
It's a lot on the kind of just like the East or West Coast. You got to go to either coast for some real work in that particular field. But there was a company called Baxter that was local, so I worked there right out of college, and that's 9 to 5. And now I'm working on signaling systems for trains.
That sounds fun.
Well, I never would have dreamed that I'd be working on train stuff.
Yeah. Not like exactly like nobody's like in a train. Like maybe you could put somebody's brain in a train and like just joking.
Yeah, right. It's it's just signaling to know where trains are so that they don't run into each other.
Right, yeah.
And giving speed commands so that they know how fast they can go if there's construction going on,
that sounds terrifying, because if you mess up and it's a train crash or something like that.
Right, yeah. Safety critical systems. Well, same with the medical, though. That's...
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the 9 to 5 can be boring. It really can be sometimes. Even working on that stuff, like you know, like you said, how you gotta, I gotta wake up right now. I gotta go do this because, you know, you gotta provide for the family.
Yep.
It's not like we're on our own anymore. We're, you know.
And you got to get the work done by like 5 o'clock, because I'll come home at like 7, 8 at night. Like I used to come home at like 10 o'clock at night. Like, and I would just be like, yeah, this is my life, you know, and I'm not waking up till like 11 o'clock tomorrow to go in, you know, because I pretty much make my own hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a job at Tim Hortons as a baker on the side to go make up the extra money.
Oh, okay. Which
was like, you know, they were like, if you come in here at 4 o'clock, I'll give you this much money. And I'm like, that is what I will do. I'll come in at 4 o'clock and I literally open the store and make the donuts. You know,
4 a.m.?
4 a.m. in the morning every weekend.
Oh, wow.
We were saving up for our wedding, you know?
Yeah. So, like, I know. Weddings can be expensive.
Yeah, they were. And like, yeah, so, I mean, what was I saying about that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the whole point of having a family, like you provide for your family, but you also kind of have to go and spend time with them as well.
Right.
So, like, it's like, okay, you know, tone it down. But like, you know, I'm like you. Like, I have this passion to go and write about different things. So, yeah, you know, you find that but you know, she calls. I'm just like, no, let's go to the park or something like that. We're still newlywed phase, so it's kind of like,
yeah,
we don't have the 3 kids yet, so to speak. So,
but there is, you know, like getting married is beautiful though, because then there is like that little bit of security.
Oh, definitely.
You know, like compared to when you're single, you know, like knowing that you're coming home to like a loving person that's gonna. Or they're coming home to you, you know, vice versa. Like you have each other, and you're not just like living this out alone with no.
I totally know what you mean. Even the difference between dating, and we lived with each other for a long period of time before we got married. But like as soon as I got married, you know, I was just like, she'll have to get a lawyer to get rid of me now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there's that security. I was like, oh, I always looked at it like, you ever play Mario Kart? Yeah. You know, like sometimes you'll hit a box and you don't know what is the question mark, and it's just like falling around. Then it finally, you know, it's turtle shell or whatever. Right. It is, right. Mm. And that's what it was like. Because before my relationship, like with her, was sort of like this question mark. It's going around. Then we got married. Stop. It's a turtle shell. It's a red turtle shell. It's the best damn thing you can get in the entire game. Yeah. And like, and it's just like, oh, like. I just feel like there's not that constant chatter in my head going on, like, oh, I have to go and do this, and this, and like, you know, because I'm living a very, you know, not questionable life, a life with many questions. Like now that question is answered, right? Everything else can be built on that block. Yeah, there's some solace in it. Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised. I didn't think. I was like, oh, we're getting married. I'm sure it's just, you know, big party, whatever. We'll go on a honeymoon trip, like. Got back from the trip, I was just like, wow, like this is different. I could feel how different this is, and I like it. Yeah. That's one thing I think a lot of people like living together now, that, you know, they might say, well, what's the point of getting married? Yeah, like, what's the point of getting married? Together. No, there's something happens like psychologically that you brings stand up in front of your whole family, and you're just like, this is the lady that I'm bringing into our family, and she's like standing in front of her whole family, and like, you know, God too, but like, you know, just saying like, hey, this is the guy that I love, and it's just like, I met so many people in her family. Like after the wedding, we had a huge wedding. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it was a great time. That's always great. Yeah, we had a medium sized one. I say, like, I think like 140 guests or so. Oh, you had more than me. I think 400 people is like a lot of people, but like, yeah, we had that at Becker Farms. I've been there. Oh man, yeah, that's a great venue. We had 2 photographers, one Uncle Mike and one guy that from the paper that I knew that like could do it, and like they both took like they went ballistic. They were like, do this, do that, like we're gonna have you here, we're gonna have you there, we're taking all these photos, and it's just like the photos got tiring. Yeah, the photos were tiring, but we had also been going to dance lessons for a year at that point in time. Yeah, we did the same. We choreographed our own dance, and we chose Iris by Goo Goo Dolls, I think. Okay, like classic wedding song, right? And yeah, that's a good choice. Yeah, I was lifting her up, and like we were doing all these things. People are like, "Oh, it's amazing." I'm like, "Yep, this is." You know, and we're still going to go to dance lessons after this because it was just so much fun. It was just a way of cementing our relationship, like to have that date night like every other week or something like that. Yeah, go out dancing, and you know, it was expensive, but like, yeah, you know, everything is expensive, right? But it's a great bonding experience, though. Yeah. Oh man, we came down here to talk about our music, and now we're talking about our wives. It's just like it always comes back to them. No. Well, man, like, I think I got a good sense of like what's going on in your life and like what music you're putting out. I'm gonna listen to more of it. I didn't listen to it on the way here. I felt so stupid. I was just like, I remember
don't
listening
worry about
to it and like being like, this is pretty good. I like this. I guess the one song that really got me was that DAD song. Dad, you know, because here's me. I'm like, I'm a dad, and I'm like, wow, like, yeah, this explains how I feel about like my father and how I feel about being a father. And, you know,
oh, no kidding. That's
really,
awesome.
It really did, and I was like, this is, I know, I was showing it to Sage, and you know, she was just like, oh, whatever. You know? I was like, no, you don't understand. This is like exactly how I feel about it. You know, like,
oh, that's awesome.
It's a sacred thing. It's just like, you know, giving you that car, trying to go and get you out in the world, always being there. You know, think about your father. Like, you know,
right.
My dad, his dad died when he was 30 years old, and he had 4 kids, and he was building a house, and he was starting his own business. Mm-hmm. And then his dad, like, had cancer, and every weekend he was going up there to spend time with him. And, you know, he passed away shortly after that. Like, 30 years old. I would be like,
wow,
like baby drowning, basically, if my dad were to die at like 30, or even now. Like, I'm just like, it's like, wow, like, I mean,
that's got to be a crazy. I do like feel bad for people who lost their parents earlier in life, because that's a huge blow.
Earlier, or even just now, like, you know, when you're like 30, 40 years old, like, you want to be like 60 years old or 70 years old before your parents die. I mean, we all had kids at like 20s is what I'm trying to say. So
right, yeah, we want to have more time with the parents and like know that. Well, there is like that little security blanket that parents always bring their kids.
Oh, absolutely.
So like, yeah, our parents still have that effect on us, whether we know it or not, even if we are like successful and self-sustaining.
I mean, like, my mom has helped me out a lot, like tried to help me buy a house, things like that. And she actually gave us like money for rent, right? Because, you know, the rent cost went from like $700 to like $1,200, and we were like, wow, that's a lot of money. Like, you know, but
that's huge. That's a mortgage.
Yeah, it is a mortgage. We should just have a house. But then I was like, well, I don't want to go and do all the work that has to go and do with dealing with the house. Is there anything more you'd like to say?
I guess, you know, if anyone wants to check out the music, it's on Starpine Studio channel on YouTube. And then there's also Dov Leon and 7 Sales is on iTunes and Spotify.
Cool.
Amazon Music. Basically, I go through DistroKid, so they distribute it to all of the major players out there. Like, anyone streaming music, they'll give it to them. So yeah, if you want to find me, check me out. You can go on those platforms. And then also, I do want to give a shout out to you for, you know, taking the time to come out here and
I've had a great
talking
time
with me. Like, I
really
appreciate
it. Delicious.
That's good. So Buffalo Music Players is your page?
BuffaloMusicPlayers.wordpress.com, or just follow me on Instagram at Buffalo Music Players.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming out. I appreciate it. And hope to talk to you again sometime soon. It was a great conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Awesome.